Welcome everyone. This is Security Demons, and we're just going to have a talk today. And this is Peter Snyder from UIC. He's a graduate student, and I'll just let him introduce what the topic of the talk is today.
Thanks. So, I'm working on my PhD at UIC. I mostly do crypto stuff, but I also do some cybercrime measurement kind of stuff. So this is stuff. This is a talk I just gave at a conference twice, workshop on the economics of information security. And so this is semi-recent research and stuff I'm working on with my advisor. The topic is affiliate marketing fraud. So in this talk, I'll talk a little bit about what affiliate marketing fraud is. Then I'll talk about the data we had to try to understand how prevalent and how big a problem affiliate marketing fraud is. I'll talk about the machine learning algorithm we designed and some of the pre-processing steps we used to get some useful information out of that data. And then I'll give some conclusions or what we found. So just jumping into it from that area. Problem area, what is affiliate marketing fraud? So first, what is affiliate marketing? Affiliate marketing is a way that online retailers, so big companies that want to sell stuff online, Amazon, et cetera, promote their products online. And the way they do that is they will give some third party, like a publisher, so somebody who has a very popular URL, domain that can sit on, that sort of thing, they will convince Bing, in this case, to mention Amazon's products. And every time a web user, all of us, clicks on one of those links from Bing and gets directed to Amazon and makes a purchase, Bing makes a little bit of money and Amazon gets money off the sale. Usually it's around 5%, but it can be a little bit more or less depending on the product being sold. So that, in a nutshell, is what affiliate marketing is. But it's pretty prevalent online. It's a really common way that people use to fund their websites, to monetize free content, especially with ad blockers and that sort of thing that's taking away those revenue sources. Affiliate marketing becomes more important for free content online. The biggest one by far is run by Amazon, but there's a lot of other ones as well. Not mentioned in this talk at all for reasons I can talk about if you're interested are networks that exist. So they'll be their middlemen that sit between the publishers and the affiliate marketers for the online retailers, and then they just are act as a clearinghouse. They're not mentioned here for uninteresting reasons, but I'm happy to talk about it more if you're interested. So the way this works in general is, say you visit, or Amazon is of course a large online retailer, and the Sweet Home is a site that talks about like home care products, and it doesn't cost anything to visit their site. It's free. But you'll notice that in the URL, or I'm sorry, Amazon will give. Sweet Home is a website that's free to visit and talks about home goods. Sweet Home wants to monetize their content, so they sign up with Amazon. Amazon gives them some unique identifier, usually something like at the bottom what you'd see, and then the Sweet Home places link with this identifier throughout their website. So for example, you click on this buy at Amazon link, you'll get taken to Amazon's site, and importantly, you'll see that their identifier is in the URL. So this is how Amazon ties traffic between the publishers and the retailers. And now if you decide to buy something on the site, Amazon will give a portion of that back to the Sweet Home. There's a bunch of other slight variations on it, but that's the common case and by far the most popular. So in order to just kind of be coherent in this talk, I just wanted to find a couple of terms. The affiliate marketing ID is that the Sweet Home -20 thing that gets stuck in the URL. The affiliate marketing cookie is something that Amazon will place on the web browser, on the visitor's web browser, to keep track of where they came from. So in this case, if you follow that link, Amazon would set a cookie on your web browser to say that you came from the Sweet Home. And the cookie setting URL is the URL that contains the affiliate marketing ID and results in the affiliate marketing cookie being set. I'll use these terms at the rest of the talk, so if you have any questions or anything like that, please interrupt me. And now, so how does this? So that's how affiliate marketing is supposed to work. How does that end up being fraudulent? How do people exploit it for intention, for what's not supposed to be employed? So the assumption here that underpinning this whole thing is that if you have an affiliate marketing cookie, you got directed there, and you otherwise might not. Or there's some smaller probability that you would have gotten there otherwise. If you have the Sweet Home URL, or you visit through the Sweet Home URL, Amazon thinks that maybe if the Sweet Home didn't mention this, you wouldn't have gotten Amazon in the first place, and that's what they monetize. The way malicious parties online take advantage of this is they will just try to get that cookie set on. They'll try to get as many web browsers to visit those URLs as possible, independent of the person's intent. And so this might happen in a million different ways. The really common one is you visit a site that's been like a forum or something like that has a lot of traffic, but also has pretty lax security. And maybe someone will stick an iframe in the corner that you can't see, but will automatically ping Amazon. Or maybe look at some malware installed in your machine, and one of the plugins that gets stuck in this malware job is like at midnight, the malware will automatically open a web browser for their ID. on and on. A bunch of different ways, but the end effect is the same, is that malicious parties get your web browser to visit these URLs independent of your intention. So that's what affiliate marketing is. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the data that we pulled from trying to understand how often this is happening online. What are the causes of it? Is it really a big deal, or is it just kind of a scare story? So there's two pieces of data that we pulled from. One is we investigated a bunch of these affiliate marketing programs, specifically 164 of them. The most popular ones, like I mentioned, are Amazon and GoDaddy, but there's a lot more. Particularly, a lot of them are porn related. In fact, the vast majority of the ones in our data set are porn related. This was how you monetize free porn. And so the reason we chose the ones we did is because we wanted to make sure we got the most popular ones, but we also wanted to make sure we needed ones that are amenable to our to manual analysis. So they had to have URLs that weren't encrypted or hashed in some ways that we can reverse and pull the IDs out of. And they need to go over HTTP because the way we got our information is we recorded all the network traffic on a large university for several months. And HTTPS, we wouldn't have been able to see the URLs that were requested. So that's the affiliate marketing specific side of it. For each program, we went through and pulled out, generating some regular expressions just to pull out the pieces of information we cared about. So what domains that you could direct it to do each affiliate marketing program deal with. And specifically on that domain, what URLs generate cookies, cause your cookies to get dropped in the visitor's browser. What URLs visiting represent a purchase being made. This is a little bit tricky because for almost all the domains that we looked at, or all the programs we looked at, they push you to HTTPS when you're making a purchase. But at least for the data set for 2014, January, February, which our data set is from, none of the sites we looked at pushed you to HTTPS automatically. They only pushed you there during the checkout process. So this is as close as we can get over HTTP and still thinking that there's a process here. So for Amazon, for example, this is the URL you get sent to every time you click add to cart. And then last, we need just another regular expression that pulled out the unique identifier from the URL. So that's the manual inspection side of each program. The other, maybe more interesting side of it is the raw data that we have from watching the network traffic. And so, like I said, this is from a large Midwestern research university, taken over 2 months, February and January of 2014. All in all, over half a terabyte of request logs. These are just the HTTP headers and responses, and not the bodies of the requests. And there's 2.3 billion unique records in here. For each request, we have these fields I mentioned at the bottom for request and response. The ones that end up being important here are the domain and the path, of course, because that's where we get the unique identifier out, and then also response codes and stuff like that too. So we can follow traces around and see it bounced around. That's the data. So we have this data that we manually inspected or that we ripped off the network. What do we do with it? How can we use it to measure affiliate marketing fraud? So we start off with a bunch of bro logs that look like this. So we need to do something more interesting with them. And so what we do is there's this well-known paper about how to infer user behavior from raw network information, from raw HTTP requests. We don't follow the paper exactly. There's a couple things that if you're interested, I can talk about how we modify it, but more or less we're following this reserve idea. And the idea is that just by taking the URL, the refer, the 301, any kind of 300 status code that's pushing you somewhere else, and timestamps, you can build these session browsing trees. I won't go into this a whole lot because it's kind of an interesting area of trying to infer behavior from static data, but we get something that looks like this for each chunk of traffic. Again, if you're interested in the algorithms we're using to build these session trees, let me know and I can talk about them more too. But once we have the information in these trees, we can do a couple of interesting things that make our analysis a lot easier. So if you want to know, for example, how many times are users visiting these purchase pages, we just need to count the number of position fields that are in this kind of position where we see the domain of an affiliate marketer and some sort of unique identifier identifying where they came from. Here, tag would be identifying publisher. Similar, if you want to know the number of publishers that are participating in these programs, we just need to count the number of unique values for X that appear. If you want to check to see how long it takes a user to make a purchase once they've been referred, we just need to take the difference between timestamp 3 and timestamp 2. And if we want to, timestamp 0 and timestamp 2, and if we want to find out how long are they browsing around the site after they get referred, we just need to take the max distance between timestamp 2 and whatever the root of the tree is, the subtree. So yeah, so these session trees end up making it much easier to in taking several billion row logs, we can take useful measures in a efficient manner. So that's the pre-processing stuff. Now, how do we use this to actually measure affiliate marketing fraud? The motivating question is, how often when somebody goes to, in this example, publisher to Amazon.com, are they intending to? The way we did that is we took a subset of our data. We took about 1,000 of these trees out of the January data, and we manually inspected them. So I looked at each one and said, that looks like, using a bunch of heuristics, that looks like somebody actually meant to do that. That looks like somebody didn't mean to do that a whole bunch of times. And so once we did that, we had a manual labeling of what seems honest, what seems dishonest. This is a standard kind of way of building a training set for machine learning techniques, or any kind of training classifiers, or training classifiers. And then what we do in this example is I would go and visit publisher.com. The publisher.com is still reachable. It wasn't giving me a 400 or any kind of 400 level or 500 level status response or response code. I could just look immediately and see, do I get JavaScript pushed to Amazon.com? Is there an iframe on this page that's loading on Amazon.com or not? If publisher.com in this example wasn't available anymore, then I need to do inference based on the shape of the tree, whether redirections are happening very fast or very slow. So in doing all this, I could pick out 10 features. Again, this is a common way of building a classifier and all these kinds of things. I won't go through them individually, but the important part is for every tree and every referral to an affiliate marketer, we're able to take these 10 measures, but really only the first three ended up being significant. They ended up doing the vast majority of the prediction. So the takeaway from this is that we can build these trees and for some new referral, and I can find out how much time is happening before something, or how much time is someone on publisher.com before they visit Amazon.com, how much time are they on Amazon.com afterwards, and is that referral happening over TLS? We can match those hand labelings with over 90% accuracy. Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah. What's Alexa? What was that?
What's Alexa? Alexa is a
traffic rank.
Oh, so Alexa is a private company that ranks domains by how much traffic they get, and so they rank, I think, the top million domains by how much traffic you get. And so the intuition here being very popular sites are less likely to engage in fraud because they face serious reputation costs, that sort of thing. And if you're just spinning up sites to burn through them, like you're doing a malware sort of thing, you're going to be very, very low or just non-existent.
Isn't there like other companies like that?
Sorry.
Yeah.
There are no equally successful companies that do that. But there's other ways of inferring the same information. So if you look at a PageRank score, that's going to tell you something about the prominence or the importance of the site online. Same with other search engines, that sort of thing. Okay, so the classifier, we're going to building, I won't walk through this completely, but basically, if you just can take 3 measures, and if somebody, you don't need to, sorry, let me back up. It turns out you just need to ask 3 questions to find out whether it's fraudulent or not. If the person was on the main domain, the publisher.com domain, for at least 2 seconds, then it probably wasn't fraudulent. If they spend at least 2 more seconds on Amazon.com after getting pushed there, they're probably more fraudulent. And if publisher.com is served over TLS, it's probably not fraudulent. But if all those things are false, then it's probably fraudulent. And that matches these hand labels with 93% accuracy.
What do you mean by the second one?
So if I visit Amazon.com and I browse around on that domain for a while, I'm just taking the amount of time between when I visit and when I close the last window that's on, or I make the last request to Amazon.com. So if there's at least 2 seconds between that first and last request, then that's going to get you the yes in that second.
So for example, if you're like closing out Amazon.
Yeah, so if you're for some reason like clicking on a link and then closing it right away, that would get you to no in that second response.
That would get me, or would it?
You would, so if you're walking through this decision tree, if you're spending less than 2 seconds on Amazon.com, that would push you in the no direction.
Oh, so for example, these sites, malware stuff, try to get you to the link and then close out really quick before you even know it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. Okay, so that's how we did these measurements. Now, what did we actually find? So from least interesting to most interesting, I think. One is that these are very popular sites. That's not surprising by design. A lot of there's 2 million requests to Amazon just in our 2 months of data on one campus alone. That's not that interesting or surprising. Maybe more interesting is that these are very popular programs, but that's also it's not even a power law. It's way more than a power law, pushing you towards the largest players as you can affect. That's just a standard network effect sort of thing that you'd expect to see. But Amazon is way overrepresented in this data set. I expect online in general. But they're very popular, so the way to read this is there's over 2,000 people participating in Amazon's affiliate marketing program only within the network, the traffic we saw. It's very popular.
And out of the 2,000, around 1.3K is fraud, is that?
Yeah, so, sorry, yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah, sorry, I read it wrong. 3.6 thousand participants, and at least 1.3 thousand of them participate in a fraudulent referral at least once. So fraud is toxic in this case. If you do something that we judge as fraudulent once, we push you as always being fraudulent.
So, like, you're saying that Amazon.com is fraudulent, or
no? That 1,300 people that participate in it, 1,300 affiliate marketing partners committed fraud during our data set. So almost a third of the people.
So, like, a company uses Amazon.com and they try to force, make money off of Amazon.com.
No, so I don't think that's the right way to interpret it. A better way of interpreting it is like I run some like car forum or something like that. I want to make money off my car forum, and so I just stick it like I register as an affiliate marketing partner with Amazon, and they give me some like car forum -20, some unique identifier, and I just every time someone comes to my car forum site, I push them to Amazon right away. So I'm not helping Amazon generate any sales. I'm a fraudulent party in this system. So the surprising thing here is that almost over a third of people in these systems are committing fraud, which is shocking. Why do these markets still exist if they're so rife with fraud? Nothing unique here, but maybe another interesting thing here is, so there's two ways to think about this fraud case. Who's getting harmed here? It's not obvious who's the party being harmed. If I'm somebody who's browsing the web and I'm getting directed to these sites, I don't lose any money when I purchase something from Amazon.com. It costs me the same amount, so I don't. The web user isn't hurt. The party who's the publisher, or I'm sorry, the Amazon.com, the online retailer, they are at worst generating. The worst case scenario is that they're paying out these 5% payments to parties that aren't helping them out. But on the other hand, think about how much money people pay online for traffic to your site. And these programs are basically delivering traffic to your site, even if they don't want to get there. So at least the picture for the online retailer is mixed. So the hypothesis that comes out of this is that,
So basically, Amazon only gives a payout if the user that's redirected makes a purchase?
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah. And so Amazon might lose if a bunch of people are getting there fraudulently and purchasing things. But they would otherwise purchase things? Oh, sorry.
So it could be anything. So I could redirect any particular item as long as my site has some sort of contract or whatever with Amazon, I can get a payout.
Yeah, there's vague, so every program doesn't work that way, but all the programs that we analyze in our data set work that way. So if you're on the Sweet Home and you look at a blender and think, boy, that's a cool blender, I'd love to buy that, but then you end up buying pencils or something, they'll still pay out of the program.
So what happens to these people if you catch them?
So there are, well, which people isn't obvious either. So there are very few cases of people who run affiliate marketing programs seeking prosecution against the fraudulent parties. In fact, I could only think of 2 cases. Lands End, the clothing company, ran one for a while, and a couple people went to jail for that. And a couple people did, are you familiar with typo spotting? This type of typo spotting is when you buy, like, not Google, but like goggle.com or whatever, and hope that people type it wrong or somehow get there, don't realize they got there, and they will just redirect those people to Amazon.com or something like that.
Right.
And so actually registrars went after people who were doing this because they were squatting on different parts of domain space. But the interesting thing is, like, look how much fraud is in these networks and how little the people who run the networks seem to care. It's odd. The only things that the parties that might actually stand to lose are the publishers, actually. Because if at some point the networks become so fraudulent that the marketers or the online retailers take them down, then there's large swaths of free content that become non-monetizable anymore. So, it's a complicated story, is all I mean to say.
So what's the risk of doing this then, if you're not going to get caught?
So I think there's a couple. It depends on who you are. If you run car forum, coolcars.com or whatever, and Amazon doesn't like you, and they shut you down, like you suffer like your Google ranking will go down, or there are other ways of sharing fraudulent data that will ping you. But if you are like a hacker, like, you know, if you get a malware, you know, you're just pushing malware jobs on people, and this is one of the modules that you install, there's probably very little. I mean, you are breaking the law. That is for sure illegal. You could hypothetically face prison time, but in practice, it seems like these are not the kinds of things that people are concerned about.
But these people could be, you know, you could get thousands of websites.
Way more than thousands, for sure.
And it would be a hard time for Amazon to bring down all the sites
For sure.
They're being redirected to there.
But it's not even clear in the areas Amazon wants to, because Amazon is getting free traffic.
I don't know if you did brush over this earlier, but let's say that I was a malicious user. Like, what would be the process? If I want to use Amazon.com, what would be the entire process of setting this up and being the malicious user? So
the common case is like you find some XSS injection vulnerability or some SQL injection vulnerability on a site, and you shove in an iframe. That's the most common thing. Or some script tag that whenever the page gets loaded, it opens up a new page that lands you on the Amazon.
So I don't need to actually set up my own site and try and have, okay, so
you can.
It's more of a cross-site scripting attack, and then through that cross-site scripting attack, I make money off of it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a way of monetizing attacks that or vulnerabilities that you come across.
What's a stolen situation?
Sorry. Yeah, so this I think is an interesting thing. I'm sorry I didn't get to it. So what conversion events is our term for whatever you just purchased something. So we saw 15,000 purchases on Amazon during the status set. About 1,000 of them were we could trace back to this affiliate marketing program. So a non-trivial amount. Of those, 700 we didn't see any fraud in that conversion. 24 is just the difference between those two numbers. But stolen is the case that we really were curious about. Is are fraudulent parties stealing purchases from honest parties? So the way this would have to work is I go to the sweet home of an honest party. I click like cool Blender. This seems awesome. Then in between me buying something on Amazon, I then get cookie stuff. Oh, sorry, do you know the term? I haven't introduced that term. Cookie stuff just means like when you get your cookie set on somebody's browser. But I get attacked in this system. I'm getting tangled up in words here, but yeah. So stolen is when a fraudulent party steals the referral from the honest party, because in this time window, you got referred, and then the user also got cookie stuffed. So it didn't happen once. That's what we thought would be the most interesting thing, is that must be happening. Well, at least our intuition is like that must be happening a lot, and honest parties must be getting like really effed over in these systems. So we didn't see it a single time.
So that's basically you're just going. They're redirecting you to Amazon. You buy the Blender, and the redirected site sends you the Blender?
Oh, no. So, I mean, so you go to Amazon and buys the Blender. The user doesn't care. The user isn't hurt at all, because they get the Blender and it's the same price. No, the stolen thing would happen if I click on the Blender link, then, maybe I close out of Amazon or something like that, but the cookies last for 2 days. Is usually what they last for. And then in that 2 days, I also go to coolcars.com and get shoved to, this Amazon as well, but with a different affiliate marketing ID. Now coolcars.com is going to get credit for when I come back 2 days later and buy the Blender.
Oh, okay.
And so that would be a stolen purchase. But we didn't see
so
that happen.
Another scammer stole.
Exactly. Yeah.
The scammers.
Yeah.
So through the process of your experiment, how would you determine if it was stolen or not?
So okay, so we can keep track of a sliding window of 2 hours or 2 days of session trees for every unique Amazon session ID that we saw. So we can trace that back to a browser. We did other stuff to make sure these aren't added networks. So one session, anyway, we can keep track of everybody's session trees, and some you can organize them, you can sort them. And then we keep track of a sliding window of 2 days of windows at a time. And if I purchase something, if I get stuffed at this period, or if I make a purchase at time 0, at time 0 minus 1, I got cookie stuff, or I got attacked fraudulently. At time minus 2, I went there. I was referred honestly, and those are all within the same two-day period. Then that would be a steal event. But that just didn't happen a single time. Cool. And so there's other stuff in the paper that seems maybe too tedious to stand up and talk about, but I would be happy to talk about if people are interested in. So again, a session tree building algorithm is not totally obvious how to do that. There's a bunch of things you can do wrong. It was kind of interesting. So the training and all the kinds of I don't know if you've taken machine learning classes or classifier building classes, but there's kind of a bunch of just curious or kind of interesting ways we went about finding the approach we did. We also, the paper offered a stakeholder analysis, so that's where we just, what I just briefly touched on, saying how does the web user benefit and get hurt, and how does the online retailer get benefit and get hurt, and that sort of thing. And then there's, of course, way more numbers and graphs and that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's that research. So thank you. Or if you have any questions, yeah.
So did you ever find out like how much money do the hackers typically make?
So we can infer it based on how often things convert, but we don't know the purchases that are made. And usually the cost that you get is some fraction of the purchase. So we can get some sense of the magnitude, but not the dollars. But it must be, I mean, this is a very common thing on the web, so it's not nothing for sure.
And then again, going back to stealing. So when I do the cross-site scripting attack, I give a cookie, correct? That's affiliated with Amazon. Is that how it works?
Indirectly. So say I go to Cold Card Forum and I can get script on the
Maybe like an iframe.
Or yeah, an iframe on there that causes the browser to request a URL that's a cookie.
And then is the cookie name the same? Because you said, like, if I go to this site, I get redirected, I get a cookie, but I close that out and I go to another site. So I'm kind of just assuming right now that the cookie name is the same. And when I go to maybe Cool Cars, that replaces the cookie that I currently have.
Exactly, yeah.
That is the deal.
In all the programs we looked at, they keep track of one person at a time.
So when people stealing, wouldn't they just be competing against one other two because you're replacing that cookie name or the cookie value every time?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Fraudulent parties could also steal referrals from other fraudulent parties. That wasn't a thing it would be maybe interesting to take a closer look at how much kind of inter-party battling are going on here, but that wasn't a measure we looked at. That would be interesting to know.
So what have you done with the study and the results?
So I've done exactly this one. I mean, we published a paper. I went to like a conference, talked about it, but like this is not really the thrust of most of my research. So there's some other people in our lab who are kind of taking this on to next steps and trying to figure out. There's a group that we work with in San Diego, UCSD, who is interested in building like a browser extension that will like detect when these sorts of things are happening, because maybe kind of unique to this research is you have to have a weird vantage point on the network to be able to do this analysis. Like you have to be basically between the web user and the affiliate marketer, which is not where Amazon is and the other people who care most about it, right? They only see a small fraction of this traffic. So it's not easy to like say, hey, Amazon can solve all your problems, if that's even a thing that you're very concerned about. But what they're looking to do is to build like something that would sit in the client and watch these things and try to analyze what looks fraudulent, what doesn't. It's not clear to me why anyone would care really, like why I would want to install this thing, but that's what they're interested in doing with it.
Does Amazon kill the cookie after the purchase?
I don't know. So Amazon is actually a unique case because like if you normally look at web traffic, you can see like cookie name equal, but Amazon keeps all that state on the server. So
if I get like a cookie, and then so let's like get the cookie, and I go on Amazon, if I make like 100 things, that person will just keep getting the 5%.
I expect so, but Amazon that's an opaque. All the other ones for sure that cookie lives. Amazon is unique in that it keeps all the state server side. So you see some value that ties you to a larger set of server state, but you don't see the values the way you do on the other. I'll maybe say one of these foreign sites.
Okay.
For the guys that faced actual jail time and everything, was there something excessive that they did which made those companies go after them, or why were these guys singled out as opposed to all the other fraudulent activity?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The only things that I know personally, I didn't look into the legal aspects of it very much, but some interesting details that I found incidentally is, so this guy was making pretty serious cash. He was making about $60,000 a month, which is obviously not nothing. And also Land's End had closed their affiliate marketing program because they weren't seeing value taken out of it. So I expect that there were probably some people being like, we need to make some examples. And so they looked at one of the largest parties and they traced them all back to these typo squatting domains. But yeah, I don't know all the specifics of it. It's actually an interesting thing. So I don't know, is everyone an undergraduate student or where, I don't know where people are, master's students are. The way, at least as a PhD student, the way this works is you write a paper, you submit it to a conference, people review it, and you say, yes, come to our conference or make these changes or get away. But so when we submitted this, we got like that middle category saying like, this looks great, but like we have these concerns, can you address them? And it turns out that there's this one guy at Harvard who does a lot of legal research specifically on affiliate marketing fraud, Ben Engelman. And he was the reviewer, but in his reviews of us, he was just saying, you should cite Ben Engelman's paper. Please recite Ben Engelman's paper over and over again. But it's anonymous, but it was so obvious that it was him. It's like in 8 different places. He was like, what, like quasi-accept, but not enough Ben Engelman.
One comment, please recite my case. I mean,
You can almost see like little eraser marks on the screen.
I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but was there any way that you were able to infer whether or not users were infected with malware that was doing any of this?
So only anecdotally. So the reason there's a not huge but not trivial amount of this that I think is from malware is that there would be a large number of in the network traces requests that had the exact same shape but to different domains, and they would always be step 1 would be to a raw domain that was a garbage looking domain, so nonsense characters probably generated by some sort of hash sort of thing, and then always 301 to a WordPress site that was also filled with garbage content, and then 301 to a subpage on that WordPress site. And I probably saw, it's kind of been a bit, but I'd guess 400 of those out of this, so a non-trivial number, and it would always be like in weird hours. So it was enough to make me think that this is something that's not human behavior, but I didn't look into it beyond that. I looked very briefly into some of the, just like when antivirus companies do like fingerprints, sometimes they'll put some sort of like anecdotal text about what's going on or some URLs that they touch. But for sure, I don't know how familiar you are with like malware systems, but usually if they need to talk to domains, they'll hash them and some sort of seeded value. And so you're very unlikely to get those in there in previous reports.
Right.
Yeah. So just suspicious looking stuff that looked similar to other suspicious looking stuff, but nothing further than that.
In your anonymous data, do you find anything like not really related to malware, or like interesting, or like just in its own way? Like, did you find
Can you say a little more? Or?
Like, I don't know. Do you find anything like funny just in that bunch of data?
Oh, I mean, sure. I mean, I think probably we should not have access to this data. It seems like a huge privacy violation. Something that I felt more and more uncomfortable about as we were going on, because even though you don't have the request bodies, you can tie it back to an IP address in the network, which we did not, but you could certainly tie it to probably a room, or at least a base station. You can see the domains people are going to, and also, lots of little domains might be embarrassing to go to and stuff like that. So lots of things that were funny, but they make like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be looking at this.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of stuff like that. Anyway, well, yeah, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I like being able to talk about this stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.